Hey everybody, it's Glenn, back in this video with the Marvel Select Carnage. I've been looking forward to this one ever since it was unveiled at SDCC in 2014, and while as a character Carnage is not one I'd want sneaking up on me, but as an action figure I was pleasantly surprised to see it pop up unexpectedly at my local Forbidden Planet sooner than I expected. Let's turn it to look at the side art. Selects usually have some nice side art, but here, not so much. It's just that it's not really reflective stylistically of the actual action figure, and more like they stuck on the first picture that popped up in a Carnage image Google search. On the packaging back we get a decent chunk of bio, but long story cut short, Carnage is the offspring of the Venom symbiote, which bonded to a serial killer named Cletus Cassidy, then gaining its name from a series of murders where on the walls of each crime he wrote the word Carnage in blood. Then pictured are two recent Marvel Selects currently doing the rounds, Zombie, Magneto and Cable, then pictures of Carnage trumpeting the interchangeable parts, which we won't linger on as I'm about to bust out the Carnage. Well, not quite yet. It has more twisty ties than I've seen in the longest time. Even the ittiest bittiest tendril parts are twisty tied in. Phew, and finally here he is. We're looking at him exactly how he comes out of the package, and wow, where to begin on this one? A real treat for the wallet and feast for the eyes. Like much of the community, I've been swimming in a flood of Marvel Legends of late, and it sure is refreshing to not be discussing reused parts. Here they've gone to town with a sculpt with an overall texture and relief that appears like symbiote Sanu stretched over flayed flesh. Then his hands have clawed fingers, albeit the menace of those is in the shadow of the symbiote morphing into these crazy finger blades, leaving his right hand reminiscent of Freddy Krueger. 1, 2, Carnage is coming for you. While Snicked, his left hand is more reminiscent of Wolverine with longer blades protruding from the back of his hand. Then we get a heap of parts, beginning with a trio of heads to interchange. So the one where the symbiote is revealing, or depending how you look at it, enveloping Cletus's head. Then bottom left there is my favourite, which in my mind is the most classic looking Carnage head. Then bottom right a more ultimate, come modern and animalistic looking Carnage. A downside to these interchangeable heads are, at least with mine, the neck peg consistently gets stuck in the head when removed, so I have to have pliers on standby to tease it out and insert it back into the neck. The hands also interchange, and doing so make the scariest nails down a chalkboard sound as if they might break. Eek! But if you can stomach the squealing plastic, boy is it worth it. Just look how awesome these are. And if you've been around the toy block a time or two, then like me, they may make you reflect back to the 90s Spider-Man animated series Carnage figure, which came with similar interchangeable parts. Back then in my mind that figure looked awesome, but just look at this now. In my mind this is how that animated one looked, but this one actually looks awesome. Not just in my imagination, in real life. The hands we've already looked at were pretty sinister looking, but these take it to a whole level beyond, with a jabbing spiked saw blade and a giant scythe blade that would leave the Grim Reaper himself green with envy. And it doesn't stop there. He has these various holes into which these parts can be plugged in to create symbiote tendrils flailing behind him. And the thing I like about all these parts is that you get enough that you can create distinct looks, so that really it's like buying more than one figure for the price of just one. You may notice there the one long tendril protruding from the back. Well, he comes with a few of those. Would be cool if they had bendy wires in them, making them posable, but I feel terrible for even saying that, as they are already giving so much value for money. I guess to make them a bit more dynamic you could heat and reshape them. So without further ado, let's get our comparison on, and this is where the wind might be taken out of the sails of strict 6-inch scale collectors, as he is a whopper. Seen here as he goes nose to nose, or more realistically nose to nipple, with his Marvel Legends counterpart from the Ultimate Green Goblin Bath Infinite series. And side by side the difference between the 6-inch scale of Legends and 7-inch scale of Select is clear and obvious. Some of the big and bulky Selects like Juggernaut and Rhino, you can argue they fit in with Legends, as artists' representation of those characters in the comics often draw them huge enough to negate appreciate the difference in scale, yet side by side with the recent Legend Spider-Man and in a vanilla pose, Carnage is not one of those selects. But for those into posing and toy photography, I think if you take advantage of the articulation in a display, you can fudge the scale a bit in the posing, and further still force the perspective to try and neutralize the difference in scale. But really, as I reunite Carnage with his daddy, and I think compared to the earlier Marvel Select Venom, I do think Carnage is a little bit big and bulky. Here his proportions nearly match those of Venom, where traditionally I think of Carnage as a leaner, more wiry character, and Venom as bigger and bulkier. Now bringing the Legends Carnage back, as Legends are often considered the benchmark for superposability, so let's see how the Select compares. So the heads of each are able to do a full rotation. Legends looks up a lot more, but then they look down about the same amount. At the shoulders, the arms of each rotate, they both move up. Legends slightly more, and then both have upper arm rotation. The Legends one has a double jointed elbow, whereas the Select has a single jointed elbow. Both have rotation at the wrist and wrist hinges, moving up and down. Both have waist rotation. The Select one has a rotating diaphragm joint, whereas the Marvel Legends one has an ab crunch. Their respective joints move this far forward and this far back. At the hips, the legs move out to the side and back in. They move to the front about the same amount. They also move back the same amount. Both have upper leg rotation. Both have double jointed knees. The Legends one does have lower leg rotation. The Select doesn't. Then both have hinged ankles and ankle pivots. Taking advantage of those ankle pivots, and here are each posed at their widest stance possible, still with feet flat on the floor. And they are pretty much even. Back when I reviewed the Marvel Select Venom, a lack of ankle pivot was just about my only criticism of that figure, so it's good that with this Carnage they are striving to improve. While the Select does lack some of the articulation of the Legends, that margin has narrowed in this case. Plus, in my opinion, they more than compensate with a wicked sculpt and innovate with the interchangeable accessories. I mean, I bought this Marvel Select Carnage for just $20.99. Meanwhile, my local Toys R Us is currently selling the Legends All Father Wave for £2 more than that. While I do think Hasbro have made efforts to improve, I wish they would take some of the innovation seen with this Select and truly earn the price tag they're demanding. Ultimately, if you haven't guessed already, I wholeheartedly recommend this Marvel Select Carnage. It's entering the Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery in my collection. Even if the scale don't float your boat, I think it's good enough to pick up and have as a standalone piece that could, in my opinion, be an early contender for Action Figure of the Year. For more Carnage and to see Hasbro's Marvel Legends versus his Toy Biz counterpart, click the video on the right for that action figure comparison. I sure would appreciate it if you could give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe for more, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.